This includes members of our community who are experiencing homelessness. And we are working with our local and regional partners to explore all possible options to help keep them safe as well. We are using every available resource to solve these crimes, to bring an end to this violence, and to keep our community safe. We also can't forget that there are now 3 victims of brutal violence, 2 of whom have been lost to us, and 1 is battling for their life. Their families and loved ones will never be the same. Our entire community will never quite be the same. Our sense of normalcy and security has been fractured. Our sense of identity is being challenged. However, our sense of unity has never been stronger. We will remain united. We will hold and keep our families close, as I have been holding my own young children close. We will walk together. We will bike together. We will look out for one another. This is an unprecedented and trying time for everyone in our shared community. So let's show everyone what it means to be a community. Together, united, and strong. We will get through this together, and we will emerge stronger. Thank you. Chief Pytel.
Good morning. I am Darren Pytel, Davis Police Chief. That's D-A-R-R-E-N, Pytel, P-Y-T-E-L. And present today, I have a member of the District Attorney's Office, Jonathan Raven, and Cecilia Aguilar-Curry, our local assembly person, City Manager Mike Webb, and the City Council, and Board Supervisor Lucas Frericks. And everybody will be available to provide statements after the press conference. So I thought I'd start off first by going over the 3 incidents that are being investigated, and then answer any questions from the press after that. So on April 27th at about 11:20 a.m., Davis police officers responded to a welfare check regarding an unresponsive male at Central Park, which is located just outside of downtown Davis. Police, fire, and medical personnel arrived and located a deceased male in the park. He was slouched over on one of the park benches where it appears that he kind of normally sits and or sleeps at night. The preliminary investigation revealed that he had suffered very significant stab wounds and that he was a victim of a very violent attack. On April 28th, the Yolo County coroner identified that victim as 50-year-old David Henry Bro, who has been in the community for over a decade and while homeless, was a regular fixture in the downtown in a very positive manner. And the other night we had a vigil for him, and many community members spoke about his positive and lasting impact on the community. 2 nights later, April 29th, at approximately 9:14, a Davis resident reported hearing what sounded like a disturbance near his house, and the disturbance was located in Sycamore Park, which is in central West Davis. The resident went outside to investigate and found a male adult with what appeared to be multiple stab wounds. He immediately called 911, had a short interaction with the suspect who fled. Police officers and fire department personnel responded, and the victim was declared deceased at that time. The next day, the coroner identified the victim of that homicide as Davis resident, 20-year-old Kareem Abu Ajim. And he was a local resident, Davis High School graduate, and a UCD student. Last night, on May 1st, at approximately 11:46, the department received a few 911 calls. The first one came in reporting a disturbance at a tent, which was located at the intersection of, or near 2nd and L Street. And there's several tents there from the local unhoused. They've been living there for some time. The initial report was that somebody had been punched through the tent, and then soon after that was followed up with a second 911 call from the actual victim. She had her call had gone to 911 for CHP because the location being near the freeway, and CHP transferred the call to Davis PD. She reported that she had been stabbed. Right around that time, Davis police officers, who were actually fairly close, responded and located her and determined that she had been stabbed several times. She was treated and then transported to the UCD Med Center. The latest information that I have is that she did have several stab wounds, had surgery, and is currently in the ICU in critical but stable condition. We were able to get a statement from her. She was able to provide a description of the assailant, and she was able to tell us what happened. In that one, it appears that she was inside of her tent, and the suspect came up and stabbed her through the sidewall of the tent. After the incident last night, we did set up a perimeter, and officers responded. We were able to call in officers from the West Sacramento Police Department, the Yolo County Sheriff's Department, the Woodland Police Department. A K-9 unit also responded, and we had drone teams respond as well. Soon after, we requested additional assistance from the Sacramento Police Department, the Sacramento County Sheriff's Department, and Elk Grove Police Department. We did end up getting another K-9 from Sacramento Sheriff's Department, and so we split up the perimeter, did a very extensive search, including house-to-house searches for the entire neighborhood near where the attack occurred, and we were unable to locate the suspect. We did have a witness who said that the suspect fled on foot westbound on 3rd Street, and that was the last sighting of him. The description that was provided for the stabbing last night is substantially similar to the description that was provided by the witness in the second homicide. At this point, we're still determining whether the two are related, but there is a similar in that they both were knife attacks, and the descriptions were reasonably close. Although there's consistency in some respects with the first incident, we're still trying to determine whether the first homicide is related to the second homicide and whether these are related to the stabbing for last night. The similarities of the two homicides are that both involved male victims. They occurred at Davis Parks. The attacks with knives were particularly brutal and violent. These were not stabbings where a person would normally be a victim of like a robbery or something like that, where there's just a couple of wounds. There were many and very significant knife wounds. The attack last night had far fewer knife wounds, but still similar in the respect of the description provided. At this point, we're going through hundreds of tips. Since we put out the information on Thursday, There's been no shortage of people calling in potential information. We've been contacting many residents and asking for any information or for any tips regarding that homicide. When the second homicide occurred, because we had a description, we started receiving far more tips. You know, people reporting people who matched the description of the assailant. And since the third incident, already this morning, we're receiving a significant number of tips as well. We've asked residents to provide any video that they may have, whether Ring or other type of video of anybody matching a description. Because of the number of tips that have come in, it's been a challenge to get to everybody timely, but we do have teams of detectives that are working through and trying to get all of those tips collected and somebody to respond to them. On the investigative side, we have the resources of all of the Yolo County law enforcement agencies. I've been in communication with the Yolo County Sheriff and the police chiefs for each of the jurisdictions. All of them have been providing support since the first homicide, both in terms of initial response and ongoing response. I also have commitment that they'll continue to provide extra patrols in Davis and assist us with the investigation. Additionally, we've been working with the FBI on helping us with evidence, and they're in town today, and well, we've been using them to help us with evidence for a couple of days now, but they're in town today to help with the investigation and also helping us collect all of the tips that are coming in and providing resources to start going through them a lot quicker. And so we have the significant federal support at this point. The Department of Justice has also been assisting. We've been able to submit physical evidence to the DOJ Crime Lab, and they are going through the evidence for us now. We're hoping to have at least preliminary information back, hopefully today. If not today, then maybe tomorrow. Some of the evidence is can be fairly quick to analyze, and some of it will take much longer. And of course, as everybody suspects, we are looking for DNA that may help us, find the offender. Unlike TV, it can often take much longer to actually analyze that evidence and do comparisons. So we're working on the timing, and it really just depends on the quality of evidence that we're able to submit and what they're able to do for us. But we're very hopeful. We have collected other evidence as well, and they're going to be going through that today. At this point, we're using 3 crime labs. FBI has offered up their services for analysis. DOJ has been doing work for us, and the Sac County District Attorney's Office has also been assisting with analysis. Needless to say, resources are coming in, and we're putting everybody to work that we can. Earlier today, the Sacramento Sheriff's Department, Sacramento Police Department offered up teams of homicide and other detectives. Right before having all of you come in here, we were briefing them. Looked like there was about 30 of them in the room or more. And we'll have additional resources from those departments coming in today, tomorrow, and looks like probably throughout the week. We have a lot going on, and there's many aspects to the investigation. Right now, what we're trying to prioritize is going through the physical evidence, going through statements, and of course, going through any tips that may help us identify the offender or offenders. In anticipation of questions, we aren't able to yet positively link the 3 crimes. We're still waiting for evidence to come back that may help us really link them. Again, we're going between the 2 homicides. We're really going based on where they occurred and the type of wounds that were sustained. There is a suspect description for the second and third incident, which are substantially similar, and that's really the connection that we have. The crime of last night and the one that occurred in Central West Davis, because we have witness descriptions of what happened, they were particularly brazen. And that obviously causes us significant concern. There was an interaction between the offender suspect last night and several witnesses who were able to provide descriptions. And so the interaction occurred over a period of time before the actual stabbing occurred. That is particularly concerning, and that the suspect didn't seem to care that there were several witnesses who could identify him. We have received questions regarding air support. Last night, when we came in, which was right around midnight, there was light rain in Davis and low cloud cover. A helicopter was not airborne, and even though we made several requests, there were no helicopters up last night to assist us. We were able to get drone support from the Sheriff's Department, West Sacramento, and Elk Grove. And there were times that they were able to fly, and because of the rain, there were other times that they were unable to fly. The drones were equipped with FLIR, so infrared vision, so they were able to fly and see anybody who may have been hiding in bushes or backyards or other areas. And so the drones assisted basically with the canine searches. Here at the police department, in addition to the investigation going on, we've redeployed all of our resources. Basically, we've moved all of the patrol forces into 12-hour shifts so that we have more personnel working 24/7. We are stepping up patrols all over town, and have also requested mutual aid resources to come in and assist with those saturation patrols. Our intent is to have a very visible presence, both so that people see the police department and police departments out to potentially prevent crime, but also as an opportunity for our residents to offer tips or provide information, and of course to stop anybody who may look like the person that we're looking for. So it's important to have those extra patrols. In addition, UCD PD is doing the same. I have been in close contact with Chief Farrow at the University of California Davis Police Department since the first homicide. He was at the command post for the search last night. We both arrived at the command post at about the same time, and we spent several hours, pretty much all night, together, both trying to apprehend the offender from last night, but also talking about campus safety as well as the safety of the city of Davis. And I can tell you UCD is also committed to helping us patrol Davis and is a close support ally in this investigation. For the public, as the mayor said, we understand that there's fear and trepidation right now. We're getting questions, is it safe to go outside? Well, we've had 3 stabbings, 2 homicides, and they've occurred over the past couple of days. That's, to my knowledge, not ever occurred in Davis. I've been with the department coming up on 40 years now. And this morning I spoke with one of the people who trained me back in the 80s when I was new to the police department. And he was here for a long time before me. And he said that he couldn't recall any similar incidents like this. So this is different. And the attacks were particularly violent and brazen, as I said. Since the first homicide, our messages have been consistent. We ask that the public be vigilant. And what that means is to be completely aware of your surroundings, to know who may be present or watching, and to take action to avoid those places where you can't really see everything. So lighting can be important, but darkness may also be important in the respect that crime does take light. So people have to make smart choices about where it is that they go, what it is that they're doing, and whether they're able to pay attention to their surroundings. Of course, people should have a buddy system right now. I think that that's a appropriate and reasonable response. None of the attacks appear to have occurred during the daytime. Although the first homicide in Central Park, the calls came in after 11 a.m., there is some indication that the homicide occurred many hours earlier and probably during darkness. So at this point, we don't have any indication that anything is really occurring during the daytime hours. So the safety concerns, I would say after dark, be much more aware of your surroundings and be vigilant, as I said. People should prioritize their own personal safety. We're getting questions about whether we should do anything from imposing a curfew, which would mean prohibiting people from being out in public, or should they change their plans and not do public things? My response to that is people need to make smart choices. And, as a general rule, we do recommend that when people go out, they're around other people and in crowds. Generally, there's a better sense of safety anyway in those types of situations. But people will have to make their own call on what they want to do as we proceed through the investigation and until we make an arrest or arrests in this case. We will continue to send out timely information. And we understand the importance of being transparent and providing what information we do have and providing it to the community in timely reports. There, as all of you are aware, and many of you I see are pretty experienced in following crime, you know that there are certain aspects of investigations that we do have to keep confidential, certain information that sometimes only the assailant would know. And sometimes that becomes very important in helping us work through tips or even how we investigate a case. So while I've been providing information, there's certain types of information and certain types of issues that may arise that I'm unable to share at a particular time. However, we will go through and balance the need for the public to know what's going on with the need to do a comprehensive criminal investigation, which is what we have here. With that, I am available to answer any questions.
At this point, do you have any sort of description for the suspect in the first stabbing?
We do not. To date, the first homicide, no witnesses come forward with any information or video that is helpful in providing a description.
Can you give an updated description for the suspect in the past two cases?
Yes. I actually did not put him in front of me, but I'll have somebody come up at the end and provide the latest description.
You've mentioned 3 specific witnesses so far, and then it sounds like a group of people may have seen him prior to last night's attack. How many individual witness descriptions do you have so far? And was the gentleman last night, did he also have curly hair?
Yes, the individual last night also had long curly hair.
And how many
And
witnesses so far?
so we had a single witness for the second homicide, and I believe we had 3 witnesses and the victim who saw the attack, and then a third, or now, fourth witness who saw him running several blocks away.
Chief, you mentioned several interactions that happened between witnesses and the suspect. So can you talk about in the second crime where there was a neighbor interaction, what was the nature of that? Did they speak? Did they fight? What happened?
They did not fight. There was no physical interaction between the two. Words were exchanged. What are you doing? And he took off, and basically the suspect, I believe he turned around and said something to the witness. I didn't have the exact words. If you're looking for those, information has been provided in the past, and we can get that as well.
And what about, so just to follow up the third interaction? You said that there was a group of 3 people and it went on for some time. What happened? Was there an argument? Was it ever physical?
No, there was no argument. The suspect was seen by the group of individuals who live in the tents in that area. They saw him across the street, and it appeared that he had been ducking behind trees a couple of times. They called out to him and even made some indication that he looked like the suspect from the second homicide. He fled on foot. He came back later and some words were exchanged, but I don't have that information yet. The detectives are still actually really getting to the meat of that. And then the attack occurred shortly after.
Did something interrupt that attack? Is there any indication of why he stabbed her and left? Was there a fight? Did someone break it up?
She started yelling, and I believe he left right then.
At this point, what would have to happen for the city to create a curfew?
So, curfews are an extraordinary measure. And while the crimes were extraordinary and unprecedented for Davis, essentially it would shut down the city. All the businesses would close, campus would close, and people would be confined indoors. And then we have to actually police that. So if we're going to enforce a curfew, it takes a significant number of police resources. And right now, I'd rather have the police resources out patrolling and trying to solve these crimes. So we have to balance that call for public safety with what we actually think is a better method of public safety. Hold on one second. Yes.
Thank you. When will you be releasing a sketch of the suspect? And is there any video surveillance the city is prepared to release?
So we have been in contact with the Sacramento Sheriff's Department, who's been in contact with at least the witness from the second homicide about doing a sketch. And the last I heard that we were setting up that appointment to get that done. As soon as that is done, we will widely distribute it. And now, of course, we have witnesses from the crimes last night. And I haven't yet spoken to my staff about having them provide sketches, but that would be the logical next step.
And surveillance footage?
We don't have any city surveillance footage, and so far, we don't have any footage that we're prepared to say is directly linked and that we're willing to release. If at some point we do feel confident in having video that can help us apprehend the person, we will release that.
Have you gone door to door to collect rig video?
Yes, we have. So after the first crime, we put out an all call to business owners and to residents to provide, and we also did a neighborhood canvass, basically going door to door. We did the same thing for the second homicide, and that's occurring now for the third,
And
the
how many
stabbing.
pieces of video you've collected so far?
Not a significant number.
You took a person of interest in the custody.
Hold on.
You took a person of interest in the custody after the second incident, and that person was still in custody this morning. So are you now backing off that as a possible person involved, or are you still looking at that person?
Well, at this point, we're still going to look at the person and still compare potential DNA. The reason is the suspect descriptions for the second homicide and the incident last night are substantially similar, but we cannot yet rule out that we're not dealing with three separate crimes. So until we have evidence to conclusively say that all three are related, we have to keep our options open and explore all leads.
How does that change the investigatory process if you're looking for one serial killer or three separate killers?
So how we internally organize that is I have teams set up for each of the three incidents, and then we have overlapping investigators to deal with the commonality. So really, we do three separate investigations, which includes, the physical evidence, dealing with the neighborhood canvases, trying to collect video, doing comparisons, and then we have meetings throughout the day to talk about the commonality.
And one last investigatory question, if I could. The FBI definition of serial murder is 2 or more killings. And we certainly have at least 2 killings that have a similar suspect and at least 2 killings with very similar MOs. At what point do you think you'll be willing to call this a serial killer? Because I think that's what a lot of people are wondering.
Yeah, so we've been in contact with the FBI, and we're trying to get profilers on board to help us make that determination. We have done that in the past. We had a pretty brutal homicide that occurred back in 2016 where the suspect, and I was part of that investigation, and we did work with profilers out of Quantico to help us in that investigation. We're hoping that we get the same support on this one and to help us make that determination.
You don't have it yet?
I'm sorry.
I said you don't have that support yet?
We've been in contact with that part of the FBI team this morning, and usually they're back in Virginia, and we have to get them out here. So that has been the protocol in the past, and we're working through if that's still the protocol.
Will the midweek Davis Farmers Market go on as planned?
To my knowledge, it is. We did hold the Saturday farmers market. I spoke with Randy McNear, who runs the market. She actually sent a very nice message saying that she appreciated the stepped-up police presence that we had there, but it looked like a beautiful day, and everybody had a great time at the market.
And what about schools? I have 2 children in Davis Public Schools, and everybody's calling me and saying what's being done to protect our children on their way to school, leaving school, school events. We're going into graduation and end-of-year ceremonies and athletic events. I
have been in contact with the leaders of the school district, the staff leaders of the school district. I provided them the information that I can regarding the investigation and where we're at. They're also, of course, meeting to talk about what changes, if any, they want to make. They have made the decision, when we lifted the shelter in place today, they made a decision to open the schools. In many respects, school events during the daytime, there's strength in numbers, and that's probably a good place for the youth to be. And
Lockdown at Davis High this morning over allegedly a person with a knife.
Yes, I do have a very limited amount of information. Somebody reported saying 3 people walking in front of the high school. One of them appeared to have a knife. Out of an abundance of caution, they did around a 15-minute shelter in place at Davis High School, North Davis Elementary, which is near the high school. They had somebody go out and look for the people. They couldn't find them, and they lifted the shelter in place, and I haven't received any updates that anything is different from that at this point.
Is there going to be more presence in the college in UC Davis? I know one of the students was one of the victims, right? And then a lot of students have classes until later, which means they're probably going to be walking out of the college or driving a bike at night. So is there going to be more presence, more police presence at UC Davis?
So I have spoken to Chief Farrow about campus security. I know that they are very concerned, and they've had conversations about what increased presence looks like there, or what changes, if any, they're going to make over there. I know that they're meeting this morning and early afternoon to discuss all options. And it's my understanding they're going to hold a separate press conference regarding campus safety early this afternoon.
Are there any plans to have increased police presence on or around these DOT campuses?
We sent yesterday, actually on Friday as well, yesterday and today, we've had officers out at many of the elementary schools, junior highs, and high schools for that increased presence, both when kids are going to school and when they're leaving. We don't have enough resources to station an officer at every single school throughout the entire day. We do rely on district staff to alert us of anything suspicious so that we can respond to calls for service. We work in really close, we have close relations with the school district, and the campus supervisor, the person in charge of security for all the schools, is been a regular part of the police department going on a good 30 years. He has one of our police radios, and we're in contact with him throughout the day, as is he in contact with us throughout the day.
Chief, at this point, are you comfortable saying if possibly the suspect or suspects is a UC Davis student, and if that suspect or suspects possibly knew their victim?
We have no information that the suspect knew the victims. Of course, that's part of the investigation. We don't know whether the suspect is a UCD student or not. The suspect has been described as being young, even college-aged, and from the descriptions provided last night, not unsimilar to how a student would look.
For community organized events, will there be an increased number of officers available to patrol those, or do we not have the resources for that at the moment?
While we're bringing in extra resources to provide additional saturation patrols, simply don't have enough resources to staff every community event that occurs. As those who spend time in Davis know, we do have a lot of community events. We have a lot of sporting events that occur all over town, and it would just require a large number of law enforcement officers to be everywhere. So we do rely on people to, like I said, make smart decisions about personal safety, to be in groups, and to report any suspicious behavior, so that, and if we do get reports, to the extent that we're able to, make timely response.
Back to the profiler question, just to clarify, so you are not currently working with FBI profilers, you're in the process of getting them out here?
Yeah, so that's a special team. So we have plenty of FBI agents with expertise in a wide variety of investigations, including evidence response and collection and homicide cases. They're experienced investigators, just as you would all expect. And so we've been working with them, but they do have a different unit that does do just the profiling. Like I said, we've worked with the unit in the past, and our goal is to work with them on this particular case as well.
So you may not have much of this follow-up question, but is there anything you can tell us about the profile of this individual that might help the public identify him, other than his appearance?
Not with going into extreme speculation at this point, which I won't do.
Chief, this morning we spoke to a few people who had that interaction at that homeless encampment with the suspect, and what they're hoping for is maybe some more support, a place to stay tonight, and their question to us was, are we going to have a motel to go to, a shelter that we'll be brought to? Is there a plan right now for the homeless community at this point?
So I have been in discussion with the city manager today and the assistant city manager. We're still working through what that would look like. And we're also doing outreach and support to the homeless community today. So one of the primary investigative tasks for today was to try to go to as many of the locations that we know that homeless are at, to both provide descriptions of the suspect, but also to let them know what's going on, and to ask them whether they have seen this person or anybody who may resemble the person. Because of the nature of that interaction last night, we want to make sure that there hasn't been a nonviolent interaction with this person with any of the homeless community in the past couple of weeks. So that's one of the investigative tasks for today. So when we have something on that, we'll of course communicate it. Yes?
Recently, we've had a lot of these shootings happening across the nation, but here we're having these knife attacks. Can you talk about the nature of knife attacks and why they're different from an investigatory standpoint?
Briefly, so generally, my experience and the experience of the Davis Police Department is knife attacks are usually more targeted events because of somebody committing a crime such as robbery, where a knife is used, or a weapon during an assault or defense-based. So usually, in my experience, is that these knife attacks involve just a couple of stabbing motions, and although fatalities occur, oftentimes victims are just stabbed once or twice, and people do survive those. Of course, gun attacks are quite different, and usually, and especially in relation to the larger ones, somebody is making a statement, and it's a specific act of violence. What makes the knife attack in this case different is that, like I said, the first two, there were many stab wounds, and they were particularly violent in nature. So our experience is there is differences between the two.
Chief, you said they're making a statement. What's the statement?
Again, when you have somebody who's stabbed a couple of times, what you look for is whether that was part of another crime, such as robbery or an assault-based crime. In this particular case, because of the significant number, this was more indicative of a deliberate and brutal killing.
So the suspect did not steal nothing from the victims?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
The suspect didn't steal nothing from the victims?
At this point, we have no indication that there was a robbery or anything was taken.
One thing I have noticed is that there seems to be a pattern where it's every other night. We have Thursday night, Saturday night, Monday night. Is that part of the investigation, that there could be a pattern to this?
We've noticed a similar pattern. All right, with that, I'll have Lieutenant Beckwith available to provide the latest description of the suspect and answer any questions for the press. I think everybody's probably familiar with him at this point. By the way, before we conclude, is there anything else from the mayor or any other of the officials up here?
Thank you, Chief.
All righty. Thank you, everybody, and we'll be in touch.
Hey, Gloria. Yeah, the folder at least, I don't need the print out. I mean, maybe for posterity, why not?
Yeah, I was, my sweats on this, you know.
Okay, never mind, I don't want it.
We'll frame it.
The helicopters operate under certain conditions where they operate, they don't operate.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, I love your car. Thank you. I'd love to talk to you.
Hey, excuse me, folks, if you would like to catch the updated description, I'm going to release that now. So if we could please keep conversation to a minimum for just a moment. I'll give you guys a moment. I'll get there in just a moment. I want to make sure everybody has time to set back up. Is there anybody else in the room who needs a moment? My name is Lieutenant Dan Beckwith, Beckwith. I'm the PIO here at the Davis Police Department. Just an updated description is what was provided to us last night. We are looking for a light-complected male with curly hair, about 5'6" to 5'9" tall with a thin or slender build. He was last seen a dark-colored sweatshirt with black Adidas-style pants with a white stripe on the side, black shoes, and wearing a brown backpack. And that is the updated description.
Lieutenant, when you say long hair, how long?
I didn't say long hair in this case. It was provided to us as curly hair. There was a description on the second homicide where they did describe maybe a longer amount of hair, but still curly.
Was there a rough age on that or age range?
Not that I know of last night, no. In the prior description from Saturday evening, they were described as maybe being in their early 20s.
What do you mean by light complected?
I don't know. That's the description that was provided to us. The initial description from the Sycamore case was a light-skinned person, possibly Hispanic. Last night it was delivered to us as light complected.
Can you give a little more description of the victim from last night? Age, that kind of thing?
I don't have that in front of me. I can give you a general age. They were a female in their 60s. I don't have the exact age in front of me, I'm sorry.
And do you know when you might be able to release a name?
I don't have that information. When we can, we will. Anybody else? Okay.
Do you plan for a follow-up update yet scheduled? Are you planning to have follow-up updates consistently? Is there any plan for that?
So at this point, we plan on only giving updates as we get them. If we have a case update, we want to provide it. But that's why we brought everybody here today, so we can get everyone on the same page.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you very much.
Hi, Lieutenant. I'm with NBC Bay Area. I'm Jody
Nice to meet you.
Hernandez.
Yeah.
Good to meet you. Can I get a number for you that I can maybe text you? Like,
Sure.
by
So
next-
I'll give this to you now. For the rest of the day, we're going to be pretty limited.
So their role is to deliver